Interesting. Okay, so going live. Here we go. Now we're live again. Sorry about the interruption. I don't know what happened. I got kicked off of YouTube. That's a bummer. We had 4 likes on that other video.
Oh, it happens.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. So I didn't see the first video, and this is the video that you're just happened to join. Welcome to Storytime Friday. So the whole purpose of Storytime Friday is I'm in the process of writing my book, and it's a little hard for me to remember my story unless I am talking about it with somebody. So we're joined with my friend Joey. She's actually on speakerphone right now because we had a lot of technical difficulty today and we couldn't figure out how to get her to join the stream. But she's here on speaker. Thank you, Joey, for being here.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, I'm going to be telling my stories of my life, and then I'll take those stories and use them to compile my book. And in the other live, we were getting ready to I was getting ready to share the story of my dad's end of life, my stepdad's end of life, as well as the beginning of COVID, because it's all part in the same thing. And so I've got little gnats in the house. I don't know why. They're all over the property right now for some reason.
So I have to say where you were talking about, so were you giving him RSO? Is that what it was?
So I was giving him RSO and FICO. So I had gone up to Pennsylvania. Oh. My dad lived in Pennsylvania. That's where I'm from. And he had just been kicked off of chemo. He had been on chemo for 2 years, and they had released him. He did chemo and radiation, and they had released him and basically said, like, there's nothing else we can do for the liver cancer. And the way he didn't even know he had liver cancer. That actually reminds me. He didn't know he had liver cancer. He had just said that he was having some or that he wanted to start like taking better care of himself, and that he was having some that he had been diagnosed with fatty liver. And so I was like, okay, well, you need to do a liver cleanse, and you need to support your liver, so start taking milk thistle. It's very gentle. And so he took it, and it gave him intense pain. He ended up in the hospital because it caused so much pain. And that's when they found out that he had liver cancer. So our story, starts there. And so then he did chemo and radiation for about 2 years, and they released him from treatment. And I was like, no, we can get you better with cannabis therapy. So
yeah,
I go up, we get him, his card and all of that. And so when he got RSO from the dispensary, or we would buy the bud from the dispensary, and I would go home and make FICO, which is full extract cannabis oil, which is very similar to RSO, except instead of using butylene as the solvent, you use 100 proof alcohol. And the reason I prefer FICO over RSO is because even if you filter and filter and filter your RSO, there's still going to be some chemical in it. Where if you're using FICO oil, it cooks out 100%, and you're just left with the medicinal properties.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I knew about it because that was the treatment that I used to treat Lyme disease. When I didn't have the money to go to a doctor, I just got cannabis and made my own medicine. And there was also an angel program through Lyme Disease Network that I was a part of, where I got some cannabis therapy, and it worked. holy shit. That is no joke. And
I mean, you reminded me. So the funny thing is, so my mom, definitely, she was a hippie. You know, my dad was definitely a hippie. But when she was going through her really intense cancer, she couldn't. I would give her the RSO, and she was just like, I cannot handle being that high. She's couldn't handle it. She started refusing to take it. And you could never talk that woman into anything, so there was no getting past it. She was just not going to be that hot. So your dad was definitely a trooper going through it.
Oh, he was. He was such a trooper because, yeah, working up to that gram, like once he was on the gram for a week, he was fine. But the couple of weeks of like working up to that dose, because you don't just start them out, you know, on a gram. But it's still really high. You're on a high dose, you know, like each step of the way. And I just remember this one day, like him standing, he was in his recliner and he stood up and he's just like standing there looking at his feet. And I was like sitting over to the side. I'm like, are you okay, Dad? Like, and he's just like, and I'm like, Dad, are you okay? What's going on? And he's like, just starts laughing. He's like, I can't figure out how to move my feet. And I was like, oh, are you stoned? And he was like, I am so stoned. And it was just funny seeing this, like, you know, 70-year-old man just so wasted he didn't know how to move his feet. When, like, I had never even seen him drunk in my entire life. Like, you know, he would have drinks, but I never saw him out of his, you know, body like that. So we had so many laughs, and I had a GoFundMe going, and we were raising money for his treatment. But, you know, there's, unless you're fundraising in like really big ways, there's only so much that people in your life can give. And people gave so much. They gave so much to my dad. And I'm so grateful because that gave me a few extra months with him. And the cancer started to recede. And we were really excited, but then the money ran out. And so when it came back fast.
That is the craziest thing. I mean, how insane is it that there was something working?
Yeah.
And financially, it's just like, oh, nope, sorry.
Yep.
Wow. Oh, I'm so sorry. That breaks my goddamn heart.
That's one of the things that I dealt with Lyme, because in our country, it's very much like, if you don't have the money, then just go die. Like, that's really the message of like, well, if you don't have the money, then you don't deserve to be alive. Like, and that's not true. That's not what
I've always been like that.
Yeah. It's not what I believe personally, but it's the
oh, it's the message we're given. I mean, nobody outright says that to us, but just short of it.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being on the phone with a Lyme disease doctor. This was like, you know, I hadn't gotten into organ failure yet, but I was really, really sick. I was pretty much bedridden, calling around, trying to find doctors. And I called this one doctor in Orlando. I can't remember his name right now, but I wish I could remember his name to tell everybody to stay away from him. And I was talking to the lady, and it was $500 for the first, just a consultation. And I was like, how do you expect sick people who can't work to be able to pay this? Like, this is crazy. And she was like, I don't know, but that's what it is, yada, yada. And I was like, so basically, and I ended up getting upset. I was like, so you're pretty much telling me, like, if I don't have the money, I can just go die. And she goes, yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like,
yeah, wow.
Like, wow. This is the world that we live in. So I had to do all kinds of forgiveness and healing work on that whole thing. So when this happened for my dad, I wasn't surprised. I had already gone through it, so I wasn't surprised. So I was up taking care of my dad. He had smoked. Him and his roommate, which had been his best friend for most of his life, Gary. He's amazing. They were like the odd couple. They were such beautiful souls together. They were so funny, and they just took care of each other in the funniest ways. And but they smoked. My dad was a smoker. He smoked his whole life. And Gary was a smoker, and I have chemical sensitivity, so I can't be in the smoke. And so I set up a tent in the backyard, and it was beautiful. It was great. I loved it. And I camped out for about 5 months. And
wow.
And so from July to November. And my dad and we had so many healing experiences while I was there. I'm just so grateful for the time that we got to spend together. And then towards the end, he had stopped smoking in the house so that I could even go in the house. So he was smoking outside. And it's like, yeah, going through cancer while smoking. There's lots of things that could be judged there, but it is what it is. And his roommate was smoking cigarettes downstairs, and so I was like going in and cleaning all the nicotine off of the walls and like trying to make it better. But by the end of it, my dad was less able to go outside for his cigarettes. And so in the end, he made the decision that he didn't want me there anymore because he wanted to be able to smoke inside the house. And so he asked me to leave. And that was really heartbreaking, because I'd already had trauma with him over the technology stuff. He chose technology over spending time with me my whole life.
And you were making him such a priority. I mean, you were centering your whole life around him.
Yeah, I had left my kids, and so there was.
Because you knew you could heal him, and you were when you were able to.
Yeah, but I mean, like, looking back on it, he didn't want to live.
Yeah. Right.
I wanted him to live, and so he was doing things to go through the motions. Right. It's not like he was depressed. He wasn't depressed. It wasn't like he was like, "Oh, I'm ready to die." He was very content with the life that he lived, and he was 70 years old, and he was just very at peace. I also think that, like, we had always had this conversation where we would talk about the end of life, what we were going to do at the end of life. And I would say, I'll be there till the end, and he was like, I don't even, like, all this is way before he got sick. Like, he's like, I don't want anyone there at the end. Like, I'm going to do what the Native Americans did. He would say he would know when it was time for him to go, and he was going to wander off into the woods and just die. And I would cry, and I'd be like, you can't do that. Like, no, you have to let me be there. And so he would say, I'll let you walk me to the edge of the forest. So that was our compromise. So that was always what we had talked about. And so the whole time where he was dying, it was like me wanting to be there till the end and him being like, I told you could walk me to the edge. And so I feel like when he asked me to leave, the excuse or the catalyst was, I want to smoke in my own house.
Yeah.
But really, that was, like, in hindsight, that was him letting me walk him to the edge of the forest, and now he wanted to go the rest of the way on his own. And I mean, there was so much healing that had to happen going through that, because I did feel rejected. It triggered abandonment. It triggered I'm not good enough. It triggered the little girl in me that felt like her daddy didn't love her enough. It triggered all the trauma of the technology and him choosing technology over me. Like, it triggered a lot. It was very, very, very painful. And ultimately, it was what my guides had told me was, this experience, it was his experience.
Yeah.
I was a part of it, but it was his experience. And I just wanted to not be selfish and make it about me when it was his experience, and he should get to say how he wants to die. And if he wants the cigarettes and that comfort, I feel it would be very selfish of me to say, no, you need to not have what you want so I can have what I want. And so I just challenged myself to not take it personal,
But also you got, and I'm sure you've done this, but you also got to give yourself the grace that there is always going to be a level of that that's very, very personal.
Right. And it was kind of like, I'll process all my stuff after he's gone.
Oh, I hear that.
Like, I'm just going to, like, yeah, you've lost both of your parents also. Like, there's a level of detachment, and not detachment because, oh, I can't handle how I feel, and not even a level of detachment. I was processing the whole time. I was processing. I would notice, like, oh, here's that trauma, here's that abandonment. Is it true? Are you abandoned? And so I would have to work through, do I believe I'm abandoned? It feels like abandonment. Is it abandonment, or is it just someone choosing something different? And do I have to take it personal? Why do I have to take it personal? What's the incentive of me taking it personal? Why do I need to tell that story that I was abandoned? And like, so I was just constantly alchemizing all the pain and all the thoughts and rechecking why I was thinking what I was thinking. Why did I want to make it about me? Not that I wasn't affected, but why did I want to take this person's death experience and make it about me, when I could make it about me after it's done? Then it can be all about me. But like, during that time, it was his experience, and I had the choice. Again, it was the choice of, I could have chosen to implode and be resentful and tell a story that this means my daddy didn't love me, and I could go down that, and that would have damaged whatever time I had left with him, and it would have forced us to grow apart, and I didn't want that, you know. So I chose, I know I'm loved because I love myself, regardless of what is reflected back to me from anyone else. You know, and so I don't need an external validation to show me I'm loved, and just like constantly doing that inner work. And and then what was interesting was at the same time that he had been talking about me wanting to leave, right before that, actually, I had a vision. Um, I had a very intense vision that came out of nowhere, and I saw, there was, I couldn't see what had happened, but something had happened, and travel got shut down. And I saw like people panicking because they couldn't get to their loved ones. And I saw that nobody was able to go to different countries. I saw you weren't even able to leave your town. And it was so intense and real that I called Carlos, who at that time we had been separated for 5 years. We did not live together. We co-parented, and we were still friends. I called him and I said, "Hey, I had this vision. Like, I don't know what the fuck is up, but this was really intense, and I think something is about to happen. And if we're separated, like, because we were living in different towns. I mean, I was in Pennsylvania, obviously, but even when I was home, we were in different towns. I was like, I, I'm afraid that if we're separated and the kids are with you or the kids are with me, we're not going to be able to get together." And he was like, "Well, okay," you know, he's used to my witchy ways and all my weirdness. And he was like, "Okay." I was really upset about it. And he was like, "Okay, well, your camper needs to be redone anyway. So why don't you come and you can just stay with me for a little bit while you redo the camper, and we'll go forward and, you know, see what happens." And I was like, "Okay, thank you." He had a 1-bedroom apartment and there were 4 people in it. So I come down, and there's a whole story within a story. My friend Sunny, who had been one of my best friends since middle school, was supposed to come down with me and stay, and she was gonna help me with the camper because I couldn't do it on my own. We ended up having a massive falling out, coming down, and I don't know that I'm wanting to stream about what happened, but we have not spoken since. I had to ask her to leave. um i'm still I'm still hurting from the experience, if I'm completely honest. I can't even believe what happened, or how she responded. But I only keep safe people in my life. And at that moment, she became someone that was not safe. And so I had to ask her to leave. And so then I didn't have anyone to help me fix my camper. And so Carlos was like, "Well, you know, we'll take care of it." So I get home, the first week of December, and immediately we all get sick. And I mean sick. And now I know it was COVID, but we didn't know about it then. And I ended up getting pneumonia. Carlos was only sick for 3 days. He was really sick when he was sick, but he was only sick for 3 days. Both of the boys ran 105-degree fevers. They had double ear infections, upper respiratory infections. Like, we were so sick. In hindsight, I probably should have gone to the hospital, because there were times when I, cough, 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 and you go to take a breath, but there was glue in my lungs. That's what it felt like. And so I would try to take my breath in to cough more, and I couldn't breathe. And it was absolutely terrifying. And, but I didn't go to the hospital because I have trauma from hospitals dealing with Lyme. And so I was like, no. And I knew, I looked up in my metaphysical anatomy book, I don't have it near me, that the emotional root of lung stuff is grief. And so to me, I was like, I'm just processing the grief of what just happened with my dad, right? Like, of course I have lung stuff happening right now. I'm grieving. And so if I just grieve and I lean into it and I process it, then it'll get better. It'll go away. And like, that's what I thought. That's, where my mind was. And so, the boys got better, and I was sick for months. I was sick for probably like 4 months. And so then come January, February, and March, people started to go, wait a minute, I was sick too. Like, oh yeah, what's going on? And people started to buzz around like, what's going on? And then people started to just like, the COVID, barely breached the surface, this topic of COVID. And then my dad died on March 4th. I flew up for the funeral. I got back on the 13th, 12th or 13th. And whatever day it was, the next day, travel was shut down. And you couldn't go anywhere. And I was like, I saw this coming. Like, I saw this. This is what I saw. This is holy shit, And then we were like, oh, we had this. And that was when, I started to try to talk about like, hey, this is the reason it's in the lungs is because as a collective, like, the planet is raising her vibration. And as she raises her vibration, it's going to force us to raise our vibration. And we can get a few steps ahead of her by doing like the healing work. That way, when she raises her vibration, it's not so freaking chaotic for us. But if we don't do the work to raise our vibration, when she shifts, like, we're either going to shift up or we're going to shift out. And so, like, for people like my dad and my mom, it was easier for them to bring in the light by leaving their body than it was for them to do all the massive amounts of healing work that they would need to do to embody the light. So, like, the reason so many people are sick is because we're raising our vibration, and the body is a communication device, and it will tell us what traumas and energies we have stuck that we need to shift by like communicating, by making us have sensations or illnesses. And so, like, if you're feeling sick, there's actually not something wrong. Your body is working the way it was designed to work, and it's showing you what trauma you have like active within you that you need to shift. And when you shift that trauma, then the density, it becomes less dense, and there's less pain, and then there can be like, a curing. And so I was trying to put that message out there. I was trying to put out there, how to use like natural things. And I got shut down on social media. And so
those big time not allowed.
What's that?
Especially then. Big time not allowed. I mean, it was amazing how much, like, because I just sort of, I have like different streams of information from more like natural doctors or naturopaths and things like that. And all of a sudden they weren't allowed to talk at all.
No.
Crazy.
No, being shut down. And like, I mean, it got so crazy. And I mean, I am my body, my choice. I personally am, we have never I was vaccinated as a child, but I didn't have a choice in that. As an adult, I have not been vaccinated. My children have not been vaccinated. I think we've done the tetanus shot once, because I do my research and I see and I outweigh, like, okay, the risk versus the benefit, and for me, a lot of things, the risk of getting the vaccine is not worth like the benefit that could happen by getting it. There's a lot of lies on social media about, or not social media, on the government websites about, like, there's been, I mean, that's a whole other video. There's a whole kinds of fuckery afoot and all of that. Yep. And so, but I don't believe that because I feel that way, I have the right to tell someone else they have to feel that way. Like, absolutely. I have lots of friends who have gotten the shot and they vaccinate their children, and like, these are hard decisions that we make, and we make them based on the information that we have, and it's a scary thing. And so, like, I have no judgment for anyone, and nobody needs to live the way I live, and I don't want to be expected to live the way somebody else tells me. And so it just caused such a huge rift in I lost a lot of my friendships. It was really hard, but it also, losing those friendships made it easier for me to go within. The purge, like I've talked about before. Yeah,
absolutely.
And deal with like my abandonment and the, my perspective of abandonment and the loneliness. And if I didn't have those people spewing scary shit at me, then I could create the reality I wanted to create easier. And so I went within, and because I went within, and we didn't look at the news. Like, we banned news, we banned all, like, the social media in the house. And my family, I was like, this is what we're gonna do. Like, because here's the thing, what I believe could be total fucking bullshit, right? Like, I'm willing to, like, we don't know, right? But if there's a chance that what I'm teaching and preaching and living, if there's a chance that it's true, why not try to align with that, right? So, like, why not try? Like, why wouldn't we want the best possible, outcome for ourselves? And there's plenty of science that tells us, backs up the beliefs and the teachings of metaphysical practices. So I like, it's so confusing for me. But again, to each their own. And so for me, it was like, we're not going to fill our mind with any of this fuckery. We woke up every morning and we meditated as a family. We did yoga as a family. We did breath work as a family. We got plenty of sunshine. We were outside. I did not wear a mask. I had a medical exemption to not wear a mask, because I had been raped multiple times, and they had covered my mouth. And so to wear masks would cause massive panic attacks. And so I got a waiver from my doctor that I didn't need to wear a mask. But even without that, we did not wear masks because we didn't believe that they were working the way that people were saying they were working, and we believed that there was actually damage being caused. And there was so much backlash from that. So much. I mean, we were evil. People were saying evil things on the internet, like, you know, but I still stand by what I did. And so we lived normally. We raised our vibration. We got lots of outside time. Carlos and I, nobody was working, so we were together. We went on vacations together for the first time. Like, we lived our life. We ate whole foods. We amped up our nutrition. Like, we did the work. And because of that, we had the best 2 years of our lives. Like it's been incredible. I went back to school and got my minister's license and my bachelor's in metaphysics. And like we grew as a family. And to me, that's what COVID was for, you know. And whether everybody was able to take that opportunity in that way, maybe not, but that's how we chose to deal with it. And that is why I have not been on social media doing lives and doing all the stuff that I was doing, because I was healing and I was doing the work to be a superhero in my own little part of the universe. And now,
an example of how to be a superhero.
Yeah. Like, be the change. A lot of us talk about what needs to be done and, oh, it should be like this, or people should do this. But don't just talk about it. Be about it. Like, be the example. Literally embody it. And I mean, that is so important in so many avenues of our life. Like, as parents, like, it's not just do what I say and not what I do. It's like, no, I'm going to be, this is so huge. It's like understanding that our children will find partners that resemble who we are for some reason. I guess so they can continue working out the karma and trauma and healing. So if I know that, then I hold myself to a very high standard of being the caliber of woman that I want my children to align with. So that's been my motivation for almost all of my healing. Like, I don't want my children to be with someone who's codependent, so I need to work on my codependency. You know, I don't want my children to be with someone that, you know, eats like shit. I want them to be with a woman who cares about their body. I want them to be with a woman who cares about their mind. I want to be with a woman who is confident. I want them to be a woman that, you know, has boundaries and all of these things. And so that means I have to be that example. I can't just say, oh, this is the kind of woman you need to be with. I need to actually be that so that they know what it looks like, you know? And same thing for like daddies with their girls, and I mean daddies with their boys too. Like, be the man that you want your son to be, you know? And I mean, in every area of my life, like, I know for a long time I've had the ability to kind of give advice. Like, we were talking about this, right? We've kind of always been natural counselors.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I could, and I'm sure you're the same, like I could give people advice that would change their life and they would be so grateful for it. And that's awesome. But what I saw with myself was I wasn't living that myself, you know? And that made me feel like a hypocrite. And so part of my healing was like, I had to listen to my own advice. I had to be the person that I was coaching other people to be, you know? And the mindset work and the energy work and the alchemy and the emotional work and all of that. You know, I couldn't be in an abusive relationship telling a friend who was in an abusive relationship to not be in an abusive relationship. Like, it's just hypocrisy. So my integrity is the most important thing to me. And so that's my big thing. Like, don't just talk about it, be about it. Like, walk the walk.
And you really do. I mean, it's like, but also you are also still human.
Oh, yeah.
And learning and changing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, you're not, yeah. That's one of the things I love about you so much, is that you are not hung up on defining yourself any particular way, and you may get frustrated with yourself in the moment, but when you do recognize how you're being human, you give yourself that grace.
Thank you.
Love yourself through it.
Yeah, mercy and grace, man. Like, none of us are the finished product yet, you know. and there is no such thing as perfection, and we are all, you know, works in progress, and we're learning and we're growing. And if we weren't doing that, then like, what's the point of being here?
Right.
You know, and again, and thank you for saying that. I love you too. But like, that's again kind of the whole thing of like, be the example. If I'm telling other people that they need to have grace and mercy for themselves and self-forgiveness and patience, and that, you know, baby steps are still steps and all of this stuff, then I need to have that same amount of grace and mercy for myself, you know, and know I'm going to keep changing. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to keep flexing and changing and growing. And like, you know, now I just turned 43 on Monday.
Yay, happy birthday.
Yay, thank you. And now I'm at a new space where, you know, I catch myself, just to be honest, like looking at other women who are older than me and looking better, right? When I say better, I mean that they're more toned, right? Like they do.
They seem happy.
They seem happy and healthy, and they're doing, their body is, you know, toned, and they spend time, you know, working out, and and anytime I catch myself feeling envious or jealous of something, that I know that's just a spiritual call for me to step up my game. Like, I could have that too. Why not me? Like, why can't I be the, you know, 50-year-old doing, you know, working out in the gym? Like, why do I have to age in an unflattering way? Like, I don't have to do that. And if I am seeing something that someone else is doing and I'm feeling jealous, that is like my higher self going like, no, do it then. Like, you can do it. And so now I'm at this space where I'm realizing I want to work out. I want to move my body. I was so sick for so long I couldn't move my body, and now I can move my body, you know, and but I'm not, of course, where I want to be yet. So when I look in the mirror and I see that I got two butts, like, like I've got like the inner butt, and then I got that, you know, McJiggle. Like, instead of looking at it and going, you know, I'm gonna look at it and go, oh, I love you, you know, hey, like, we're doing the work. We're doing the work, and love yourself where you're at, and you're gorgeous and wonderful, and be proud of yourself that you're doing the work, and knowing that because you're doing the work, you're gonna get to where you want to be. And I'm excited to be at that point, you know, but we have to have grace and mercy for ourselves while we're going through the process. Like, if we don't have grace and mercy for ourselves while we're going through the process, then we're going to give up.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, it's self-sabotage. And I feel like a lot of us are stuck in that pattern of self-sabotage. And it may be, that can be a few things. Like being in a pattern of self-sabotage could be a lot of programs running, could be programs of like, I deserve to be punished. Could be an issue with the program of motivation. A lot of us have been programmed and trained to be motivated by running away from how something feels, right? Like I'm motivated to work out because I don't like how it feels to feel because because I'm fat, because I'm ugly, because I'm meow, 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 right? Or we can shift that motivation and I work out because it feels good to work out. I work out because I'm excited, for my body to be strong and healthy. I work out because, it releases endorphins and I feel, happier and more joyous, my body is stronger. Like we're getting to the same destination in two different ways. And so self-sabotage a lot of times can be issues with the program deserving to be punished or a program issue with motivation. So like that's kind of stuff that I work with people in theta sessions on that kind of stuff. And it's very helpful,
I love the theta sessions so much.
I love them too. Joey's been doing, I don't know if it's okay for me to show. So Joey started as a client of mine, is now a dear, dear friend of mine, and she's been working so hard. And she does counseling sessions and theta sessions and BQH. We did a BQH session, and like the transformation that I've watched you go through, like I am so grateful to get the privilege to witness your personal healing experience, like, and you show up for yourself, like repeatedly, even if you don't want to, even if it's hard, even if it's stuff that's not fun to look at. Like you are so consistent with showing up for yourself and doing the work. It's so inspiring. And
really, it's just because it sucks if I don't. Like, I mean, sometimes it's hard to do it, but ooh, life without a little bit of self-reflection it's not fun. It's not fun. And I'm in it for the fun.
Yeah. And that's something else I've been working on too. I realize, like, as I've gotten older, we go through these programs where it's like, oh, we're older, so we need to not be silly or not do whatever, not be childish or not do all kinds of stuff. And like lately I've been really challenging myself to like, fuck that. I'm gonna be silly and I'm gonna, like still horseplay, and I'm gonna do like all these tiny little things that bring me joy. And yesterday I did something that brought me so much joy. It was so funny. I dropped Lucas off at the movie theater to go see his friends. They were going to see Insidious. And I got myself a bucket of popcorn with nacho cheese. And I was just like happier than a pig in shit, sitting there eating my popcorn, dipping it in my nacho cheese. I was so excited. And I was like, yeah, see, like, a few months ago I'd have been like, I can't go in and get popcorn. I'm not going to see the movie. Meow, 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 meow.
Right.
No, I want the popcorn. I'm gonna go get the popcorn. And I was so happy. And then of course I couldn't eat the whole thing, so my family helped me eat it. And it was just awesome. And I think we need I think it's really important for us to find joy in everyday, mundane moments.
Yeah. And it takes that being able to be present to do it. And that being able to be present takes looking at those subconscious patterns that keep you out of the present.
Yeah.
And it happens before you know it.
Yep.
So, it's always a looking back. Well, it starts as a looking back. Like, the more you do it, the more you can get closer to, like, closing that gap of happening and being able to be present through it. And I feel like that's the trick if you can get there.
Yeah, that's it. Being present is the most important thing. If we're not present, then we're not going to realize that we're living out a boring freaking life. We're just going through the motions. We're not fully showing up for our moments and going like, am I living how I really want to be living? Or am I just, you know what I mean? But
yeah, if you're in a subconscious pattern you've always been in, I mean, it's likely that pattern isn't even really one you would choose if you had the choice.
Right. The toddler's at the wheel, right? Like if we're not present and we're not like fully active in our moment, we don't have that connection with our guides to help us with proper discernment and intuition and all of that. And then if we're not present, we're either in our past or we're projecting our past into our future, and then that's manifesting all kinds of fucked up shit. And then if we're not present in our moment, the ego is there, and the ego is like a toddler, it's just like doing what, like it makes no sense. Sometimes it'll do things out of like just out of trauma, out of trying to protect itself. And so if we become present and we really look at like, okay, this is the moment I'm in, how can I live fully in this moment, and looking at how many times we're not fully present in the moment, and so we're not really animated in the moment, or we're not there. And it's like the reflection is so important, because I know that there have been times when I have had my boys sitting in front of me and they're telling me a story and I'm not fully present. I am listening, but I'm not fully present. And so I'm like, yeah, yeah. And in the brain, I'm like thinking about something else, right? And how that must feel.
That's kind of an ADHD thing too.
Yeah. And how that must feel for them to have that compared to me being fully present, going, oh, really? How did that feel? Say.
But some children have never had that from their parents.
Right. Because I think a lot of people are miserable. And
absolutely.
I mean, I'm in the place of like joy now, but when I first started to become present, there was a lot of shit to clean up. A toddler had been at the wheel for a long time. And so I came home and there was flour everywhere and, shit smeared on the walls. And like, there was a lot I had to do to clean up the mess. And that can be really hard, and that can take some time. And so the consistency of showing up, like, even though it's hard, even though, even though there's shit on the walls, like, no, I'm gonna stay and clean it up instead of go sit in the other room. Instead of ignoring it. I think for Topic Tuesday, that could be a good topic for this coming Tuesday, is to talk about being present in the moment and
cleaning shit off
the walls and what that looks like and how to get through it and how to be present. I would say like a majority of what I coach people through is how to be present in the moment so that they can take control of their lives.
And now you be your superhero.
Yeah.
That's why we're all a superhero.
Yes.
And that's where it is, though, because we can only do it when we're present.
You can only do it when you're present. That is the only time. It is so necessary, yeah, to fully engage in, to put a cape on. If you want a cape, I know some superheroes don't want capes. I think I would want a cape, because they're fabulous. You know,
you need a cape the color of your hair.
Yes, yeah. I want Doctor Strange's cape.
Oh yeah,
because it's like its own personality. It's got like sassitude. So yeah, so I think Monday or Tuesday at 1, we'll talk about
being present. That's
being present. So, but I'm gonna end the live now. I'm gonna stay on the phone with you, Joey, but I'm gonna end the live now, because it's been about an hour and a half, including the other video. And I just want to thank y'all for being here, and join us for Topic Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'll see you then. Thanks again for being here.